Hi, I'm MattDriesbach, and I'm one of the pastors at Redemption Church. And one of the things I have the privilege of doing is teaching the Financial Peace University classes. In these crazy times when we're all in our homes, like I am right now, and we're not quite yet ready to come back to church, we thought it might be helpful to offer some videos that would give you some financial wisdom, some financial advice for the times that we're going through, and also offer you an opportunity to send in questions that are specific to what you're going through so that we could hopefully answer them for you. So let me make you 3 promises about these videos. 1, we're going to keep them short, 5 minutes or less. And if you know me, you know that might be a challenge right off the bat. Number 2, it's going to be biblical. It's all going to be biblical principles of how God calls us to handle our finances and what He would tell us to do, what He wants us to do in the difficult situations that we might find ourselves in. And then lastly, if I don't know an answer, I'm not afraid to say I don't know. But more than likely what that means is I'm going to go find you an answer. I have access to a lot of people who are a lot smarter than I am, so I'll be able to go and find you an answer. And in those cases where you just don't know which way to go, like you could go one way or the other on the answer to that question, I'm going to be honest with you about that too, because there's always more than one perspective on things. So I'm excited to be able to share with you and be able to hopefully offer you some help. I'm excited to see your questions and get to engage with those. So let's get started. I want you to think about 3 words, 3 words that have meaning both in life, but also in our finances. Those 3 words are surrender, contentment, and sacrifice. That first word, surrender. The idea is that I need to be able to be surrendered to Christ completely. My whole life surrendered to Him and surrendered to His will and surrendered to His plan. And then also in that, thinking through my finances, I want my budget completely surrendered to Him. When I'm surrendered to Christ, it means that I'm free to live for Him and not live for something else. It means that I've made a commitment in principle not to live for things, but to live for Him. And in that surrender, that can lead me to, it can point to this next word, contentment. In Philippians chapter 4, Paul says this in verse 11, I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. And then there's that famous verse in verse 13. He says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So where is the power for contentment? How do we find the key to contentment? It's the power of Christ. See, Philippians 4:13 is not about scoring a touchdown. It's not about getting a hit at your next at bat. It's the power of Christ to live content, satisfied, reliant on Christ in every single situation. So I'm surrendered. It leads me to contentment, in perfect contentment in Christ. And then that contentment frees me to be able to be like Christ in sacrifice. That means a sacrificial life. We are never more like Christ than we are when we are sacrificing for others. Jesus lived His entire life in sacrifice. We often think of the ultimate sacrifice. He laid down His life on the cross for us. He paid the ultimate price, the ultimate sacrifice. But He lived His whole life here on this earth in sacrifice for others and sacrifice for us. And so we want to be people who, like Christ, look for opportunities to sacrifice for others. Now, that can be real practical when you think about maybe being down on your luck financially and you go, yeah, I have to make some sacrifices because the income just isn't coming in. But I want you to think about something practically, even if you're watching this video and God has maintained your income through this COVID-19 pandemic, that you've been fine financially. The Bible doesn't just call us to be thankful for what God has given us. It doesn't just call us to sit on our laurels and say, thank you so much, God, for providing for me. It calls us to be like Christ and look for opportunities to sacrifice that we may give to those who have less than we do. So if you're sitting out there and you're doing well, you should be looking for opportunities that God might be calling you to sacrifice for the needs of others. So we live that surrendered life that finds contentment through the power of Christ and desires sacrifice. So let's take a second and get practical. If you are in that category where you're struggling and you're thinking, okay, what do I do next? Let me give you just 4 kind of initial steps to kind of help you think through those things. Number 1, scrutinize. Look at those bills. We just talked about sacrifice. Look at the places you can sacrifice. Do you really need cable? Do you really need a gym membership? Can you get a cheaper cell phone plan? I'm telling you that you can. And then call your auto insurance. 3 weeks ago, I called my auto insurance. It might have been 4 weeks ago now, and said, hey, I'm not driving as much. I don't think I should have to pay as much on my auto insurance. They agreed. And then recently, I just saw Farmers is doing that for all their customers for free. So look for places you can sacrifice. Look for places you can save. That's number one. Number two, get a job. Okay, you may not have income coming in. Maybe you or your spouse has lost some income. Don't wait for that job to come back to you. Don't wait for the specific job that you want in the field that you want. Go out and get a job. Return to your roots, those high school roots. Go get a pizza delivery job. They're hiring. Go get a job at Amazon. Go get a job at a grocery. All those places are hiring, even though there are places that haven't come back and started up again yet, okay? So that's the second thing, get a job. Third, prioritize your spending. Dave Ramsey, who does FPU, talks about the 4 walls. He says, prioritize your spending in this order. Prioritize your spending like this. Take care of your food first, okay? Take care of your food first. You got to keep food on the table, food in your bellies, keep everybody satisfied food-wise. He says, then pay your utilities. Pay your utilities, your electric bill. I don't need to tell you that in Arizona in the summer, everyone needs AC. And then third, he says, then prioritize shelter. The roof over your head. The reason he says to do it in that order is utility bills tend to be a little bit cheaper, and they also tend to turn off your utilities before they kick you out of your house. So pay your utilities first to get those taken care of, and then go to your landlord, your mortgage company if you need to try and maybe get some forgiveness or get some leeway in how you spend the money on your mortgage. And then lastly, if you have money left over after paying those 3 bills, take care of transportation. Keep gas in the car, insurance, so that you can get to and from your job. And then lastly, I just want to tell you this. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We're here. We love you. We want to be able to help you. Thanks so much for joining us today. Church, we love you. We cannot wait to be back together physically. But until we are, please don't hesitate to reach out. Email the email below with your questions. And if I don't get to the question in a video, I will do my best to email you back specifically. But in the upcoming weeks, we're going to be dealing with a few questions at a time in these future videos. Love you, church.